Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the McGonagall Boxing Podcast. So obviously the dust has settled on Jack Catterall, regisprograis, at the Carp Arena in Manchester. I believe it held about 8,000. So decent venue. I think they could have probably pushed for more. I mean, I don't understand why they didn't push for the MEN Arena. That's a 25,000 seater. Maybe ambitious, I don't know. Maybe the undercard as well didn't quite warrant that. But, I mean, listen, it was a good fight. Number one challenger fight, really, wasn't it? Certainly for that IBF title, which Catterall's probably going to have to go to Australia for now, unless Hearn is going to pay serious money for the champion to come over, which could happen if he sees Catterall as a long-term investment. But obviously in the Campbell Hatton James Flint fight, the rematch unfortunately didn't go the way of Campbell. I say unfortunately because I wanted him to win. I believe he would have been a better fit for boxing had he won, but he didn't. So we're going to break these fights down. Starting with the Campbell Hatton fight, it was a very entertaining scrap, wasn't it? I mean, they were literally going at each other, just throwing haymakers, really. And I personally had Campbell Hatton winning this fight, 6-4. I listen. There's not going to be huge cries of robbery and outrage. I get could easily been scored a draw. I don't think he deserved to lose that fight. Yes, Flint certainly started to time him and land on him from about 7, didn't he? And he buzzed him in the last round. There's no question about that. But Hatton's tough. He's got a lot of heart, like his dad, a lot of grit, and he fired back immediately, despite being buzzed in that last round. And I think he dictated the fight. I think he landed quite heavy on Flint, and early on he was pushing the pace, and he was making life very, very difficult for Flint. And I don't think he's in any danger of stopping Flint, but there's some awkward moments there, and I think a bit like Beterbiev and Bivol, the judges marked Beterbiev for forcing the fight, obviously a much lower level, but I think that's what Hatton did here. I think he really forced the fight. He had Flint on the back foot, and obviously, Flint started to find his range. I get that, but for me, I think Hatton landed some nice body shots, a few nice uppercuts, and you had to see Flint's face at the end, heavily marked up, to know that, he was in a fight and he got caught many, many times, whereas Hatton barely had a scratch on him. But like I say, I don't want to keep lending that to that tells the story of the fight. It doesn't. And certainly for me, Flint won the last 2 rounds, but I just think I had Hatton now. Get it? He could easily have scored it maybe in a round to Flint, but I had him 6-2 up going into round 8, and I think, he had a very strong start. I gave him the first 3 rounds, and then I think Flint started to come back at him, and then I gave Campbell the last 3 rounds from 5 to 8. Now I know some people might say, round 8 was Flint's, but I just think that Hatton landed and pushed the pace, but obviously the last 2 rounds were definitely Flint's. But a close fight. Listen, and I think you're being disparaging to say that James Flint is an English title fighter when he's up for it. The problem is, he's a gypsy fighter, and as we know, not being stereotypical here, but they don't always live the life. They can't always get up for the lesser names. Evident with Tommy, Fury, Billy Joe, and Tyson, of course. Tyson being the prime example. He looks like a world beater against Klitschko. You stick him in, against a journeyman or whatever, and suddenly he looks very, very suspect. Even Ngannou, right? He's very inconsistent, and that's what's happened with James Flint. That's why he lost his last fight, I believe, to a journeyman. It's because he just didn't get up for it. He, didn't train. Hatton, of course, he was, and when he trains, I think he's British title level. Is he going to win the British title? Maybe not, but he's right up there, and he'd be very competitive. And the thing with James Flint, I heard Curtis Woodhouse say this, former British champion, is his game. He's tough. You hit him, he comes back. There's no quitting him. And he's still young himself, of course. So, listen, there's no disgrace for me in Campbell Hatton losing. although it is a blotch, there's no question about it, he needs to take a back step now, doesn't he? All this nonsense about retiring, I think Eddie Hearn kind of pushed him under the bus a little bit. No way does he need to retire. He just needs to take a step back. Should he have taken James Flint in his first partnership with Ben Davison? No, I don't think so. He should have had time to embed that. But again, I think that's the curse of being Ricky Hatton's son. They fast track you, especially into these big events, these televised events, these big stadium events. And he just needs to learn, doesn't he? He needs to go back to small halls, off TV, 2 years, 8 to 10 fights, maybe not 10 fights, 8 fights. You get around and churn them out, and just learn specific, I'm not saying learn his craft or whatever game, but specific techniques. He needs to get a jab. Yeah, he needs to set things up with a jab before coming in, looking to headhunt for the body. At the moment, he's coming in full seam ahead, straight lines with no setup. So he also needs to make sure, like I say, he's pivoting it off that line, and he's got some head movement when he comes in, because at the moment, he's too easy to hit. And after about round 3, Flint was starting to realise, okay, this guy's easy to hit. There's no diversity here. He's just coming in a straight line. But he needs to, the big thing, of course, though, he needs to set it up. He needs to sit it up behind a round-rob jab so he can break his way in, and then when he's in, he can do the damage. But at the moment, he's just trying to look for that body shot, that head shot, without setting it up. And fighters, James Flint and above, just see that coming, and they'll pick him off. So he needs to work on that. And I think footwork as well needs to be improved. At times, listen, he's a pressure fighter. You're not going to change that. And I've got a lot of respect for that. But at times, he's quite flat-footed. And he looks a bit cumbersome. I'm not saying he's slow, but he looks a bit clumsy. And he can be hit. So he just needs to work on movement, certainly lateral movement, working on a jab, and just showing up his defence. Sometimes his hands are too low, like you saw in that round 10, and he can get hit. So, he needs to punch, but always keep that phone, as Paulie Malignaggi says, by, right up top. So when he's hitting, he gets back to that guard, so he's not exposing himself for too long. But these are technical issues that he needs to work on outside of high-pressure arenas, because, of course, high-pressure arenas, high-pressure fights, you're just going to go back to what you know because you're under so much pressure. He needs to learn, knowing almost he's kind of going to win. Yeah, them kind of fights where he can relax and work on things. So when he comes back in 2 years' time, he'll only be 25. He'll be a much improved fighter. I think that's what he needs to do. I think he's got the hunger and desire to do that as well. He's not just a rich boy living off his dad's name. He showed a lot of heart. He's lost 2 close fights there, and 2 absolute barnstorms where he shipped a lot of punches and he gave a lot of punches. So you've got to give him credit for that. As for James Flint, I think he's going to be a gatekeeper now, isn't he? Probably for the British title fights. I think he'll get on Eddie Hearn's card again. Yeah, I think he'll have a nice payday. He'll probably fight a top up-and-comer, maybe even European. See what he does. Maybe even gets that kind of, like I say, that break beyond British title. I mean, obviously he's not going to get anywhere if he fights for a European title, but I think he's a good gatekeeper for guys pushing for European level, and he'll certainly be on the card. He'll be on early, and he's earned a good payday. But ultimately, I can't see his future going much higher than British level, British title. It might spur him on. I think that's probably his ability. But again, he gets hit far too much. I don't like Hatton. I don't think he carries enough power. I think Hatton, that's the only issue as well. I think he needs to learn to sit down more on his punches. But it's not easy. He's 5'6", and he still looks like a boy at times, doesn't he? He needs to fill out a little bit more. James Flynn, same thing, quite a slight physique. Hasn't got a lot of power, but nice boxing skills. And like I say, game as a badger. Will keep coming. And, he's got enough swing on the punches, but he hasn't got enough power to hold off anyone past European level. And I think he gets knocked out at that level, of course. So, but I think he's, like I say, I think he's earned 1 or 2 paydays now from that. And like I say, 10 years' time, he can live off the reputation that he's beat Campbell Hatton twice. I had him winning the first fight just. I had him losing this fight, though. Just. But 2 very even fighters, very close fights, and they both deserve a lot of credit for the amount of heart they showed, even if at the moment they are limited to that British level. Going to the main event now then, so Catterall, regisprograis. It was a great fight towards the end, wasn't it? It started very cagey, as you'd expect. Two slick counter boxers, southpaws, just trying to figure each other out, weren't they? And they both kind of knew they couldn't really lose. You know, Catterall, if he loses, he's back down the pecking order, and Prograis is probably going to retire. So, you know, it was a cagey opening. You could see that. They're trying to figure each other out. They're both very slick, very, very good counters. If you leave, you know, a gap, they're gonna expose it, especially if you rush in. So, but obviously, I think what happened is Prograis started winning them exchanges. His hands looked faster. He just looked better than Catterall early on. I mean, Catterall had his moments, but I think bizarrely, I had Catterall winning the first 2 rounds, then Prograis started to take over in my eyes. He won the next 4, and he obviously that knockdown, that vicious jab, which is a bit of a flash knockdown, I know, but it's still a knockdown, sort of woke Catterall up, and then Catterall started. What happened, Prograis was starting to take the centre of the ring. I thought, this is Prograis' fight here. He's dominating the pace, the range, but Catterall then started to get more aggressive. He backed Prograis up, and as we know in the Josh Taylor fight, Prograis does not like to be backed up. And that's when, I think, when he pushed the pace on Prograis, he started to slow down, and Prograis' feet looked considerably slower from round 6, didn't they? He looked quite slick and bouncy and sharp. I thought, wow, this guy's not washed up at all. After, the devinhaney mauling, I thought Prograis is here for the money. But actually, he was game, wasn't he, early on? I thought, this guy's going to beat Catterall like this. But then, credit, and Catterall does this. He's a very smart fighter. He makes adjustments, doesn't he? He makes changes. And that's what he did in this fight. He realised, okay, I'm losing this fight. He's bossing me around at centre ring. I've got to take the centre ring. And that's exactly what he did. And he pushed the pace on Prograis, started to fight at his pace. And that's when Prograis, he started to tire, overcommit, and Catterall then was countering him. So, very smart tactics from Catterall. And from round 6, I had him pretty much dominating. I think round 7 was quite competitive. But after that, it was all Catterall. And obviously, Round 9's the big one where he floors Prograis twice with a beautiful left hook. Again, Prograis starting to get tired, starting to overcommit, not like the early rounds where he looked sharp and patient. And like the boss, he started to look desperate, didn't he? And his feet had gone by that time, so very flat-footed, made him easier to hit. But still showed a tremendous amount of heart, Prograis. You can't knock him for that. He's a game fighter. He's got a lot of heart. Former 2-time world champion. You know, he's not going to come and roll over. Turned into a bit of a wrestling match at times, didn't it? Like sort of, certainly Prograis hang on for dear life, and he's trying to swing for the fences late on, sort of desperation. But I think with that knockdown in round 9, it really turned the fight, and then Catterall kind of steamed him, really, didn't he? The last couple of rounds, for me, were all Catterall. I mean, Prograis, he tried valiantly, but he just lost his range. He became tired, and that's age. I think old man legs at 35, the second half of the fight, will start to go away from him, and that's what happens, especially in the lower weights. When you get older, 35 and above is tough because you're relying on speed and reflexes and fitness, and when that starts to go, you're in trouble. Prograis said afterwards, no complaints, he took it very classy. I had it 114, 112 to Catterall. Like I say, I think it's a fight of 2 halves, but I just think Catterall managed to win that opening round. And that was a big difference, because then in the second half of the fight, he started to take over and win clearly. So the fact that he banked them 2 early rounds, and then Prograis started to take over the next 4, but them 2 early rounds were the difference for me. And obviously the big knockdown in round 9. But I had 114, 112. I'm not convinced on that performance, though. Catterall beats the top of the top. I'm not sure he beats Haney. I don't think he beats Garcia, and I don't think he beats Lopez. He's a slick boxer, but I think he can get outboxed by them guys, and I think he can get hurt by them guys. So on that performance, listen, it's a good win, and he definitely deserves a title shot now, definitely, without question. I just don't think Catterall is the elite. I don't think he beats them guys. I know Prograis was very complimentary afterwards, but listen, he's got a lot of beef with Haney, so he's never going to big Haney up, is he? And I don't think he likes Lopez or Garcia very much, and obviously Garcia's out at the moment anyway, I get that, but so he's always going to big, and he's still doesn't like Taylor, so he's never going to big them guys up. But I think Catterall is not quite there. I don't think he's quite elite on that performance. I had him winning 140, 112, but listen, it was a very close fight. I mean, 117, 109 is too wide for me. I don't know what they're seeing there, at all. I mean, Prograis clearly won more than 2 rounds there. I mean, that's just, for me, that's madness. So anyway, yeah, like I say, I had it 7-5. Catterall gets to win, deservedly so, but he's going to have to step up. He's going to have to start better because, make no mistake about it. If you're 4 rounds down against Haney and Lopez going into round 7, you're in trouble. They're not old and they're not going to fade like Prograis did. So he needs to start early out with more buzz, more sprite. And, he is what he is, though. He's a great boxer. I just don't know if he's got the elite boxing skills of Haney, and I don't think he's got the power of Lopez or Garcia. So it'd be interesting, though. Listen, I hope he becomes world champion. He should be undisputed. He beat a poor Joshtaylor in that first fight, and obviously he got his revenge in the second. So he deserves to be world champion, but if he moves up, that's going to be incredibly tough for him. If he, and I would like he's talking, but obviously if he goes to Australia, that's his best chance, I believe, of getting a world title. I mean, I know he wants the big money fights, Catterall, but, if he does that, I think he's got his best chance of getting that gold, getting that world title around his waist. But, listen, job done for Catterall. For Prograis, I think it's time to retire. I don't think he's going to get any better. His feet, as you can see, start to slow down. And, the problem you've got there is obviously he's now going to be fighting the young guns as well, which is a nightmare because they're going to be hungry and they're going to see him as a name and, they're going to come after him, So if you've got Ramirez and Parro, it's just going to be very, very, very difficult for him. So, listen, Parro, Catterall, for me, I'd like to see. I mean, that's going to be a brilliant IBF title fight. I think, for Prograis, I think he's got to retire now. I think, I don't think he's going to beat any of the upcoming. Imagine fighting Piello, or like I say, Parro, Ramirez. These guys are going to be hungry lions after him now. So for his own safety, he's a 2-time world champion, no disgrace. Bow out while you still got your faculties. As for Catterall, bring on the Parro fight. I think Ramirez will be tough. I think Haney will be tough. I think Lopez will be tough. And certainly Garcia, if he decides to come back at that light welterweight, that's going to be tough as well. So, listen, I'd like to see him. Hopefully Hearn could get the money out, the checkbook out, bring Parro over to the UK. That'd be unbelievable. I think that would be an MEN Arena fight, a 20,000 fight. If not, it's over to Australia, where he's got to be careful because the judges, as you saw the Jeff Pacquiao fight, they can do you, they can rob you. So Catterall would have to win that fight clearly, which he can do. But Parro's young, he's rangy, he's hungry, he's undefeated. It's risky going to Australia. I think Hearn needs to get his checkbook out. But get that fight. Catterall deserves to be a world champion. And I think he will do against Parro. But against the elite, on that performance, I don't think he beats Ramirez. I don't think he beats Haney. And I don't think he beats Lopez. All right, guys, I'd like to hear your thoughts anyway. But a fantastic weekend of boxing anyway. 2 great fights. And I've got to say, DAZN, who I thought were in big trouble a year ago, they've turned it round. The pay-per-view model, and certainly, let's be honest, His Excellency have helped get the fights together consistently, and they're back on track. So credit to DAZN for airing that. Great fight. Let's get this world title shot for Jack Catterall now then. All right, guys, I'll see you soon. I'm out, and I'll see you on the next one.